welcome to Drive-In Double Feature Podcast. I'm Nathan.
I'm Ryan.
And this is the podcast where we talk about 2 movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before we get into today's episode, check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/Drive-In Double Feature Podcast. We got a bunch of bonus content over there that you can consume all in one day if you want. You can binge watch it like a nice mini series. I can tell you, I love doing that more than watching any movie.
I love watching the progress bar on a sound file.
Me too. Yeah, I definitely don't do anything else. I want to appreciate it and stare at it moving. I put a lot of work into that. Okay. Uh, but getting into today's movie, we are talking about New Year's Evil from 1980, directed by Emmett Alston. And hey, guess what? It's another canon movie. I didn't know that when I picked it. So we got another.
I didn't either. When I saw that lovely Canon logo and Golan and Globus again, I was like, I'm in for a good time.
See, that's the thing. When you see the Canon logo, it's like a nice, like, okay, all right, well, at least it's a Canon movie.
I know not to take this seriously.
Exactly. New Year's Evil is a slasher movie, kind of in the wave of slasher movies of the early 80s, and especially based off of holidays like Friday the 13th. This one's based off of New Year's.
Did this movie come out on New Year's or like in January?
It came out in December 19th, 1980. So around.
Okay, I was just wondering if it predated Friday the 13th.
Yeah. When did
it didn't.
It didn't.
No.
Okay.
Friday the 13th. Well, it came out the same year, but it didn't predate it.
Yeah.
So they're probably both in production around the same time.
For sure. Yeah. And definitely riding on the coattails of Halloween, which is the big one. But if you didn't know that, have you ever heard that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it's just funny. Like it was the Friday the 13th, is like the parody holiday slasher movie. And they were making another holiday slasher movie that wasn't a parody.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. I feel like slasher fans, they have a movie for every holiday.
They do. They were literally almost every holiday. There's
yeah.
there's
we had the Uncle Sam movie, which we watched on here.
Yeah, Mother's Day, Father's Day.
Yeah. There's so many. So I'm glad I just looked it up and I saw this one. I've seen the poster before, but once again, it's a movie I knew nothing about going in. So kind of the setup for this movie. It's a popular show. There's a popular show that runs in California leading up to the new year, and it's led by someone named Blaze, who is kind of a punk rocker. And it's a show full of like kind of new wave punk rock music from the time. So it is kind of a musical before the Apple. There is a New Year's Evil song, like it does have an official song, and this movie actually had a soundtrack that never released. It was supposed to get a vinyl release and it never came out. So yeah,
what a shame.
I know, right?
Can you imagine having a vinyl copy of this on your shelf?
Now, yeah, that looks pretty cool. I think that would be pretty awesome. Well, I wonder if now it has a release, because vinyl is kind of wild. Anything gets a release nowadays. But yeah, they get this show, and then all of a sudden it's a call-in show. We get a call from somebody calling themselves evil, but they use like this they modulate their voices. I am evil.
Was it a kazoo?
That's what it's looked like. I couldn't tell. It's because it's not like Scream 3 where they have like the voice box or whatever to change their voice.
Well, I mean, he has like something in his mouth. They're like, I am evil. Yeah. I'm going to kill tonight.
You know what's weird about this movie too? I was so like, I guess I just thought it was interesting. We see who the killer is. Pretty quickly into the movie, we see the person and we actually follow the killer, which is not usually how these movies go. We see some of the survivor, but it's more about the killer going around killing people.
It is, yeah. And the killer has the gimmick for this killer is they're going to kill somebody at the stroke of midnight in every time zone until they get to the Pacific time zone in America.
Yeah, and then that's when they're gonna kill the host of the show, Blaze.
Oh, were you? So I was a little confused by it for a little bit. I mean, I don't know
Okay.
if you were, but when they were doing that, I thought the killer was literally like killing somebody in each time zone, and it would
I
and
mean,
go into a different
yeah.
time zone.
No, I that's what I thought was going on the whole time because I thought he was traveling and I was like, damn, he's moving across the country so fast.
Yeah, I mean that would getting through one time zone in an hour would be you'd have like a rocket car. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I thought he was starting on the East Coast. Kids, yeah, that's what it is. He's killing everyone in each time zone. And I thought from the start, because the first kill, he goes to a hospital, pretends to be working there and kills a woman there right at the stroke of midnight.
oh yeah, this guy works fast too. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah.
I mean, he goes through this whole charade of going into this hospital, pretending like he's this new orderly that got hired,
Mm-hmm.
and ends up romancing one of the nurses
Mm-hmm.
there, and because this is at a like a retirement facility, and they he's like, oh yeah, like maybe we could go to the back room here, and they just they
Mm-hmm.
start having sex,
Mm-hmm. And
and
he stabs her.
yeah, and but it's to the sound of like a bunch of people in a mental facility or whatever, like start cheering, like, yeah, happy new year.
Yeah. Which is, I guess it's funny. I don't know. He does this. This is the setup for the rest of the movie. And I don't know about you, Ryan. His stuff I think was interesting, but whenever it went back to Blaze and the actual like story of the radio show, I thought it was kind of uninteresting. I think all of that, other than her adult son, which I think is a weird subplot.
It
Um,
is
yeah,
very
except
weird.
so yeah, our host of this radio show, who doesn't look that old, honestly, but she has like a fully grown son, who's there, who is an actor and gets a role without using her name. He gets it on his own, but she's completely uninterested in it. She's worried about the show, doesn't want to talk to him, and her son has a meltdown and does some crazy stuff. He like takes like her like pantyhose, right? And like puts it over his face and like cuts
Yeah,
it up.
and I mean, he's not the killer because we know what the killer looks like.
Yeah.
So it's not like this is some red herring or anything. It's just her son is just acting
Yeah.
really bizarre.
Yeah, that's what that was kind of my deal is like it felt like they were setting it up like, oh, he could be the killer, but no, we know who the killer is. We've seen his face.
Yeah, I agree though. Like anytime they would cut to the radio station, that was the least interesting part of the movie for me.
Yeah. Yeah, because all it is she's like, "Oh, I need some cops here." And the cops are kind of like, you'll be fine." And
It's
then they
it's
show
like
up.
we get lots of crazy people on the phone.
E- Exactly. And also just like as an aside, I just saw the budget for this movie was $500,000, which is the same as Saving Christmas. Isn't it crazy that back I know there's inflation and everything, but like this is low budget and it looks like a movie.
I think back then that's kind of considered pretty high budget.
Is it? Well, I guess for Canon, it's probably pretty high budget
Well,
for
I mean, for
sure.
Canon, it's like $1 million is like pretty typical. So
We're giving you all we can give you.
yeah, that's I mean that was like their big deal, make them really cheap and turn a little bit of a profit. So
Yeah. Unfortunately, I can't find the box office for this movie.
it was $100 million.
Whoa, that was a huge hit. Best movie in 1980.
Yeah, no kidding.
Um, but yeah,
No,
but getting back to the real plot of watching the killer, he picks up like the two women and starts like driving
that
them
that
around.
that that was probably like the funniest part of the movie was
Yeah.
him picking up this woman at a bar, and that because he's that like I said, that's his gimmick is he kills somebody at every on the hour every hour, and
Mhm.
that he this one, it's getting close to 10 o'clock, and it's just like he's in a big rush.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think is so funny about it. It's he's got like that time limit, like oh my god. And of course he's got two women with him, and I think he only wants one, right? And the other one's kind of like a tag along. Um,
Yeah,
and he forces her. The way he's done it does it. And he's like, "Can you go in there and get me a liquor bottle and leave us two here alone?" And like makes her go into the other girl go in the liquor store so he can choke out this woman to death.
yeah, with the shopping bag.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, and this actually is like a little bit later in the movie. I'll be very honest with you. This movie's funny, and I think it's fun. I actually didn't really like this movie. Uh, I thought it was little too slow, I guess. I don't know how to explain it. Just kind of uninteresting for a lot of its runtime.
I Overall, I didn't care for it.
Yeah.
I will give it some credit.
Mhm.
The the big twist of it, I was not expecting that.
Yes, that is true. But before we get to that twist, my favorite part though is
Mm-hmm.
the motorcycle scene where because he goes to the drive-in. But he accidentally knocks over a motorcycle and he hides out a drive-in. And I was just thinking, I was going back to when we went to go see all those horror movies. Imagine if we were just sitting there at the drive-in and then a horde of like a huge biker gang comes through looking for somebody. I'd get my ass out of there. I would not want to be there for that.
You wouldn't want to watch that?
No, with all their headlights ruining the movie.
Oh, true. The movie experience would be ruined at that point.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
I mean, how am I supposed to watch Bride of Frankenstein with all those headlights?
Yeah, it's not like we've done it before. I think they were watching Blood Feast, is what I think was on, and it sounded like it was just the trailer because it had the narrator. But this guy, there's like that small scene where the guy's like groping that woman. It's like, oh, can we do it? And she's like, after this movie, because Blood Feast is just so interesting.
That's what I say whenever I'm with somebody and I'm watching Blood Feast.
Yeah. And then how many times has this happened to you?
I, I mean, it's too many to count.
Oh, gotcha. How many times? I don't think I've ever seen Blood Feast.
I haven't either,
Oh,
but
but yeah, whenever the twist does happen, um, I feel like I'm rushing through this plot, but there's not like a lot going
I
on,
well,
right?
no, I mean, I mean, it's they go in and they like the killer announces what he's doing. It's like they go in, kill scene, back to the radio station, kill scene. Oh my god, he killed again. Back at the
Mm-hmm.
radio station, and I mean the whole plot is just like the telethon is going on or whatever, and then like the killer comes in and does like another time. It's like, if you want to see my next victim, go to this street at this
Mm-hmm.
corner, and they're like, oh my god, he's killed again. And by the second kill, that's when I realized like, oh, he's in California too.
Yes, yeah. Because I think it's like it's in Los Angeles, and yep, and then he makes it back. But I do like how this is done. Because we do go back to the radio station. She's getting ready, and the cop like sweeps her room. The cop leaves, and then out comes the
her
killer.
son,
Yeah,
her
her
son
son.
first, her
That's
son
right.
first. He
That's
like
right.
ripped up like this big. He did something I can't remember, but like he ripped
Yeah.
up something, and they're like, it's like you never give me any attention because he's been wanting to talk to her this whole time,
Yeah.
and she keeps blowing him off like, not now, I'm dealing with bigger stuff, there's a
Hmm.
killer on the loose. And and then like you said, he puts like the pantyhose on the face, so he's acting really erratic, and he does something again, and he runs out, and then the killer is in a room, but he has like this weird clown mask on,
Yeah.
which
He
has
sent
like
me
a
that
weird.
picture. He's got like a
Yeah,
smug face on.
yeah.
He kind of looks like an asshole, is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I was trying to think of like it's like he's doing like that one meme of like that one like Olympian girl where she's got like that weird like type of
Yeah.
face to it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll include it in the picture of the podcast. Why not? Just for all
Yeah.
of you.
Yes, please. On their little drive-in screen, you can see that face. And,
Yes, yeah. Um,
uh, but yeah, I mean, it's you think it's going to be a fake out,
mhm.
and it kind of is, and then the
Yeah,
killer, uh, it is the killer, but when the killer takes its mask off, it's the guy that we've seen throughout the whole movie. And okay, this is a big spoiler, so if you don't want to get this
yeah.
part, go watch the movie. But the killer turns out to be her husband.
Yeah, yeah. I did like that twist. I thought that was a big deal because that's who you're thinking, what you're thinking the whole time. It's like the mystery isn't who it is, the mystery is why he's doing it. And
Yeah.
you do get that because he acts like a loving husband, but he I guess he feels emasculated by her. That's what it is because she's a strong woman and gives him money, and he wants to be the strong man who makes the money.
Did you feel like a sleuth while watching this movie?
I did. Yeah, I felt like a detective. Yeah.
Yeah, I was. They really dropped these really careful clues in there.
Yeah, yeah, the small hints, the red herrings, everything. Uh
I
no.
still don't know who the killer is at the end of the movie.
You kind of don't. I mean, you don't know what happens at the end, right?
No, no, because there's a Hawaii killer now.
Yeah. Can you believe that? But yeah, I mean that's what this it does have a kind of wild ending kill scene because he does set her up to get killed by tying her up to an elevator. So like when it move, he's gonna make the elevator go all the way up and then drop it down so she gets crushed.
Yeah, he can manipulate this elevator to where it goes like up and down, and
Hmm.
he goes up and down, up and down, up and down, and
Yeah.
there's other people in the elevator too.
Which is so they're like something's wrong here. uh yeah, he just manipulates it, and but guess what, he gets caught, he doesn't kill her. He actually has a very interesting death scene where they corral him on like the roof, and he does the classic he's wearing the mask again, which I'm glad it came back. Do you think the canon group there was like, yeah, this is going to be the mask, this is going to be the new Halloween mask?
Well, I mean, that's like the most memorable part of the movie. Like, if you Google this movie, that's like that mask is on like the cover of like all the new DVDs and Blu-rays for
Yeah,
this movie.
I wonder if you can find this mask, probably from a specialty place, but
Hey, there's got to be like if you just type in New Year's Evil clown mask, I'm sure you'll find it. But
yeah.
um, I do want to mention, they because he does finally reveal that he's the killer, and he talks about like what a bad mother she is. It's like you
Mhm.
don't give our son any attention. You have to give me like an allowance to for me to like go have fun, but like all this stuff he just drops on her all at once,
Yes,
and
yeah.
and like you said, he feels like totally emasculated, where he's just like, I don't even feel like a real man. Like I don't, I can't provide for you. I'm basically like I'm under your control this whole time. It's like, no, that's not true. And
Hmm.
it, I mean, I don't know. I would have liked maybe like a little more motive, or like something like, I don't know. I didn't think it was a very strong motive.
No, it's a fun motive, but it just wasn't like it wasn't dealt with for enough time. It's kind of revealed, he gives the motive, and it quickly goes into the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it needed a bit more, and I think that's why slashers do the whole who's the killer kind of deal. So whenever the reveal happens, we get more of a reason for the motive, like more moments with this guy saying, like, being emasculated throughout the movie, and then it's revealed like, oh yeah, he's the killer because of this, and we understand that, not a quick two sentences like, you did this to me, you give me an allowance, I'm gonna kill you now.
Well, yeah, because I mean, we don't really. I mean, I know she's the protagonist, but we don't really see any instances or hear about any instances of like
Mhm.
her doing that to her husband, other than like because they do say in the movie, like, well, where's your husband? Oh, he's out right now. He'll be back later though. And
Yeah.
that's pretty much the extent of it.
Yeah. Do you think that she was maybe not enough to get killed, obviously, but maybe she was a little too passive of her own son? Because she had a decent amount of downtime.
I mean, it could. I mean, we don't know. I mean, just based off of what we're seeing in this
Mhm.
movie, it could have been a bad night, but I
Yeah.
do think there's probably some truth that she was like an inattentive mother or like a real, you know, she just wasn't around that often because she was so famous.
Hmm.
And that's, I think that's what they're saying, it's just because obviously their son is like emotionally disturbed in some way.
Yes. Yeah, and it's very obvious. And by the end of the movie, his dad is dead now, and you think it's all over, but uh-oh, he takes the killer's mask. He takes his father's mask, and you kind of don't know what happens next, but I think you're supposed to assume because the ambulance driver is dead, and I think you're supposed to assume that he's
He's
the
gonna
one.
kill he's gonna kill his own mom.
Yeah, exactly. Which would make sense.
Right. So I mean, because she gets in an ambulance at the end of the movie, and then they're like, "Oh, Happy New Year from Hawaii."
Yeah,
It's
and oh my
that's
God.
5 hour difference.
Yeah, so that's when the sequel will happen. Next year's Evil.
Oh, well, I mean, they could still technically do it like that same night. It's just like a different time zone. It's like we're doing all the world time zones.
That sounds like a sequel. Like I feel like they would do that in Hollywood. Like
Yeah.
all the we're making it bigger, we're making it global.
Yeah. Now we got to deal with every time. There's going to be a killing. There's going to be 24 deaths, one every 24 hours.
Yeah, and since it's modern, doesn't have to be the voice doesn't have to be done through a kazoo. It could just be done digitally. Why
Right.
don't we just make this? We can make it better.
Why wasn't LaQuisha in this movie?
I'm, I'm LaQuisha, and I'm gonna kill everybody in every time zone.
Yeah. Why didn't he just do the LaQuisha voice? I would have just masked it entirely. You wouldn't know who the killer was.
Yeah,
You
I
would
mean,
have.
like,
You would have thought it was. You would have thought it was a woman that was the killer.
I looked away from the screen during LaQuisha, and I was like, "Whoa, that was him doing that voice." And that's a joke. I'm kidding. But
But uh, overall, pretty generic, I'd say.
yeah, yep.
It's I will give it some praise. Like I said, like I was not expecting that twist. It's that's something new where I was just expecting it to be like a crazed fan of some
Mhm.
sort,
That's what it would
and
normally be.
but I was not expecting that and like the killer to be related.
Mhm.
So I do give it some credit, but I can really see why it's not. I mean, it's other than the couple of kills, which the kills are fine. It's not anything memorable.
Mhm.
But overall, I just the scenes in between the kills, I was kind of coming in and out of those. I mean, I couldn't tell you any specific conversations that were had in those scenes. So,
No.
um, so overall, I'd say I probably would not recommend it. I mean, like I said, it's not awful, but it's not exactly one you need to go out of your way to see either.
No, and I mean, I just mirror what you said. It's not really recommend just because it's just kind of uninteresting. And I think you were right with just saying it's just a generic slasher, and that's it. It's just kind of bare bones, as simple as you can get. Nothing really stood out to me. None of it because I think about Friday the 13th, right? Notable kills, some really cool stuff. Even in the worst ones, there's usually something cool going on. I wouldn't even say there were any interesting kills in this one, until like maybe the elevator scene. So,
Yeah, well, I mean, like in Friday the 13th, where it worked out is like those were interesting characters, there were interesting
mhm,
scenes. There was an air of mystery about it. Like everyone had their own distinct personalities.
mhm.
So, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that like keeps me around. That makes me want more. But this stuff, it's just like, okay, there's one character really that matters, and it's this girl, and she's not really super interesting to begin with. And
Mhm.
then you got this son that's not really expounded on until like the very end of the movie.
Yeah. So, you know what? We aren't recommending this one, but Ryan, let's hope you save the day. What are we talking about on Thursday?
Well, Nathan, we are going to be talking about Hell Comes to Frogtown, which stars Roddy Piper, and
Roddy
that is,
Piper.
yeah, from They Live.
Mm-hmm.
And that movie is streaming for free on Tubi right now.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to watch that. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to email us at drive and double feature podcast at gmail.com. You can also X at us at DIDF pod. But until next time.
Until next time.
I'm in a fever.